Okay, so we're coil building. You won't need any tools beyond the kidney or the credit card that you got from me during the week. I'm going to take some clay. When you're taking clay, either use the wires or, as you see there, swipe from the side. You want a clean cut. You don't want to gouge it with your fingers and making lots of marks. So I'm just taking a little lump of clay and I'm squeezing. So I'm making coils. So a little pinch and I'm rotating as I pinch. I'll just move that out of the way. So I pinch and rotate, pinch and rotate. Now I'd normally have this hanging directly vertical, just for the sake of the video. So I'd normally have it down, hanging downwards like this. Pinch and rotate. Once I have the sausage starting to form, I can roll it. Just make sure if you're rolling to do full rotations. So I'm going full rotations. It's very easy for the coil to become two things. If it breaks, you can, or if it gets too long, you can break it off. It's very easy for the coil to get flattened. You want it to be round. It doesn't have to be that clean if you don't roll it, if you just use the pinching. So if you just pinch, it's not going to be that clean. You can get it just as thin, but it won't be as clean, but you don't need it to be clean. So we have two coils. You can see the thickness. It's about the same thickness as my finger, roughly. It doesn't have to be, but you don't want it going too thin. Especially, you can have it going too thin, but for your first attempt, it's easier if it has a little bit of thickness. We're going to make a ring, and the ring is going to be the width of the base of your figurine. I'll just close that off. So I smoothen it out. You can flip it over and smoothen out the other side. So you just want making sure that it's got a really good join. And then we can start coil building. So coiling is each coil goes down on top of the other. So when I'm starting, I'll press down, and with my thumb I'll press that in. So I'm smoothing the start of the coil. And then as I'm going around, I'm using 3 fingers. So these 2 and the one on top. So I have 2 fingers, one on the inside, one on the outside, and one on top. And as I'm pressing the coil on top down onto the coil underneath, I'm giving it a little wiggle and a little compression. So you'll actually feel the clay expanding under your fingers and stretching out in front of you. So you'll get more out of the coil. What's important is that you check your direction. Well, that when if I'm going straight up, I can only see the last coil I put on. Now, if I'm going outwards, I'll be able to see the coil underneath. So looking down into it, I can see the coil underneath, the last coil put on. I can see that as well as the top coil. That means I'm flailing outwards, and I don't want to flail outwards. So I want to go either in or straight up. Now, looking at the drawing that I showed you in the last video, my little character has a little bit of a pot belly. So it will be coming out, but I can put that out afterwards. So I'll just take the rest of the clay I have to start off again, smoothen it in, and then compress. If you run out of clay, just smoothen it off and you can get ready to make a new coil. So now I'm going to turn this on its side so as you can see it, but a couple of things. Even though I was compressing with these 2 fingers in, I was still pushing down with the finger on top. That means the top surface is still nice and fat. If that's coming to a sharp point like that, so if it's coming to a sharp point, that's going to become a problem, because when the next coil goes on top, you've got no surface for it to go on top. So when you're adding your coils on, you keep this top surface nice and fat and round, so you have that clay surface for the next coil to go on. The other thing is make sure there's no gaps. So you shouldn't be able to see daylight coming through anywhere there, that there's no gaps, and that the thickness is kind of uniform throughout it. After, how many have I done there? I've done 3.5 or 4. After about 3.5 or 4, you're going to smoothen them out. Now the smoothing is not the finished effect. The smoothing is just for strength. The surface quality I'm not going to be concerned about now. I'm just blending in my coils for strength. I'm lifting this off the table so as you can see it in the camera, but again, like your vases, I wouldn't ever lift the pot up unless you absolutely have to, because that's when things can start to get a little bit deformed. I have this on a turntable, so there's a turntable underneath me. If you don't, well, you don't have a turntable or a lazy Sue at home, if you had a lazy Sue and you want to use it, by all means. But if you don't have that, even the folders that I gave you last week, if you have it on a chopping board or a piece of cardboard, the cardboard now is going to suck some of the moisture out of the clay, so you might want to cover it and fill them. But at least if it's on something like a chopping board, you can turn the chopping board as opposed to turning your pot. But I'm lifting it for the sake of the demonstration so as you can see it. Try not to lift it yourself when you're at home. So I'm blending in all my coils. I'm not worried about what it looks like. We're a long way off worrying about what it looks like. And I would do the same on the inside. So I'm just using my thumb and smoothing it downwards on the inside. Once that's ready, take another little piece of clay and I'm on to making my next coil. So pinch, 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 and rotate. I'm doing this horizontally so as you can see it in the camera, but normally I'd have it hanging vertically. And when it's hanging vertically, gravity kind of helps. So pinch and rotate. If you want to, it's not necessary. If you want to finish it off and get a little bit more of a stretch in it on the table by rolling it, you can. But again, it's really not necessary. It doesn't have to be clean and smooth. Once you're ready to start, I'll start in the low point here. Smoothen it off. And away you go. So pinch, pinch, pinch. I'm going to go straight up. So remember, I'm looking down on it and I'm being careful about the direction that the pot is going. The pot, and this is really important, I should have started with this, your pot will not collapse on you. It's not going to just implode. It will stretch outwards, and it'll stretch so slowly it'll be like the hands of a clock moving. You won't notice it happening until it's happened, but it's going to want to, like if I'm wiggling that, can you see the vibration going through the wall? That vibration is going down through the wall here and it's loosening the clay. So if I keep vibrating it, now the vibration happens as you're working on it and you're putting coils on it. If you're being really rough with it, that vibration is going to soften the clay and the clay is going to slowly get wider and wider and wider, and of course as it's getting wider it's dropping in height as well. So you'll be trying to do a cylinder and it's going to end up in a bowl. So that's what we need to be careful of, and with that in mind, you're being conscious that you're going straight up, that you can't see the coils on the inside underneath the coil you've just added. Once you have a couple of coils added on, I'm using my thumb to blend on the inside and blend on the outside. You see there's no tools have been used yet. The blending on the outside, the blue modeling tools that I gave you, you could use one of those for doing this, but to be honest with you, I find my fingers just as good. finish off. I'm just going to lift up one more time so as you can see where we're going. So you can see it's slowly getting bigger, and I'm just conscious that it's just going straight up or inwards. So ideally it's either going straight up like a can of beans, or it's going slightly inwards so as the top is narrower than the base. And blend. Just going to make another coil. Actually, I think I'll pause this video now and I'll separate the other video to when I'm closing this off.